You know, we just went through that essentialism discussion, so I have to tell you, the most essential thing I want to do right now is not fall off this stage. But as Todd said, you know, we're trying to create a learning organization, and part of that was really a discussion with an artist to explore innovation. And since I have a passion for innovation, they gave that task to me. But before I go into that, I do want to talk about being an outlier and really winning that award, because winning that award was real special for me because it really allowed me to share that with my team. And together, it was a culmination of so many innovations over really 10 years that we drove our business to success. So really, I want to thank my team because it was a real special thing for me. And then, Chris Laping, I don't know if he's here, but he's out there, yes. I had to follow in those big shoes of Chris, really, and really hopefully I hold up some tradition of being an outlier, and hopefully we'll pass the mantle on to the nominees who are here today. And I just want to wish you the best of luck, and really what I'd like to share is just enjoy the experience. And in that F12 program, really what we're trying to do is become a learning organization. Really, if you think about Evolve, one of the real special things here is they're talking about leadership and building a culture, and really to build a high-performance organization, combining that with technology and innovation to really help drive your business. Well, we're trying to do the same thing in our organization. We're trying to create that learning organization. And as a result, I was asked, as I said before, to talk to an artist. And let me get over to my slide. And I was like, well, I know something about art, but not a lot. I mean, I know scenery, I know scenes. I could probably see that creative process, but I said, okay, I'll try it. We'll try that discussion. I really am not sure of the connection that we're going to make with innovation and how much learning there will be, but smarter people than me told me that I needed to do that. So I said, okay, I'll be willing and be bold and go forward. But they didn't tell me that it was with a modern artist. And I got to tell you, I can't make a connection to this. Can you? What does that mean to you? Did anybody yell? Hello? Nothing. So that's what, see? Very difficult. Well, to me, what I'm going to tell you what this means is it's going to be a journey, a portal to the discovery of innovation. The artist that I had the pleasure of speaking with was William Perez, and you can see some of his artwork on this slide. He's a Cuban artist, and he's a renowned artist in Cuba. His work is shown in the Museum of Modern Art in both New York and LA, and his artwork is in galleries on both the East Coast and West Coast, so art collectors seek out his work. And this was the gentleman that we were going to speak with. To add to the complication of this conversation, William only speaks Spanish. My problem, I only speak English. So at this point, I was like, okay, this is really going to be a difficult model for me to follow. And I was told that his wife was going to be there and she would be the interpreter. I said, okay. So I don't really have to plan how I'm actually going to have this conversation. So I said, no problem. But when I get there, his wife is busy and is not part of our conversation. So I do what any person would do who has a language barrier. I start to talk slowly and louder and use my hands. Well, that didn't work really well. And an amazing thing happened during this conversation. We actually started sharing moments about innovation. He started talking to me about, I could hear ideas of empathy and the use of empathy in his art. He started talking about essence of collaboration, how he used collaboration and created that journey, and how he experimented before he'd actually create his artwork. So we actually started kind of seeing the same thing in a way. So I'd like to go into a little further with you with that. The first thing we talked about, which was a real surprise for me, is that he talked about how he puts himself where the viewer of the art is. and he's trying to sense their feelings about his idea. And he's working with this model. And what's interesting about that is when we're creating a product and we're having an idea, talking to the customer and trying to see if our ideas resonate is the same model. It's actually trying to ask the customer, what do you want? Or this is a vision that we have, what do you think? And you're trying to look for the unexpected. It was surprising for me that William was actually trying to do the same thing in his artwork. And I was really impressed with this, because I would think, if you look at that modern art, I'm not thinking they're thinking about me and what I would think about viewing that. And that's why I was asking you, well, what do you think? Because the artist is really interested in that as they're creating that. So it's a really theme of his, and it's a theme of when we create products. Human-centric design is a really critical thing when you're going down the path of innovation. The next item that we started to kind of, in our way of trying to communicate and gesticulating, and we started talking about a journey from that vision and how what he sees and what he discusses with people take him down a different path than maybe he started. And he was telling me he never is in the same place after those empathy sessions as he starts to collaborate and experiences different items. And I know I've done that exact same thing. After you kind of done this empathy work, you really want to put it out there and talk to people. You want to get their ideas. You want to hear that yes and, that kind of focusing and flaring and brainstorming about the idea. He's doing that exact same thing. I was shocked. I mean, I didn't really think that modern art would be following some type of process to create your art in a way. Now, he might not know that that's what he's doing, but he's got this model that he's practicing. And it's the same model that we practice. In fact, I know when I've done innovations for DirectTV, and as I've done them, I never wind up in the same place. In fact, this presentation is using the model that I'm talking about. I had a vision. I was speaking with Alexis and Kristen and Todd and Stephanie, and we're chatting about this. And I got to tell you, where I probably started and what I'm communicating today are two different places. And you have to have that willingness to listen and trust. And one of the most important things, and I love this picture because you see the lady just going, ah! Got to be careful I don't fall off the stage when I do that. But the trust is a real critical thing to allow people to share their ideas. It really is the cornerstone that everything is built off of, and you need to have that in your organization. As leaders, as individuals, it's our job to foster trust so that we can build collaboration. And I love this picture because to me, it's like the palette of possibilities. And when I talk to William would use different, he works in metals and plaster, and he sculpts and he paints. And what he'll do is he'll experiment with like smelting processes to see if he gets different textures of metal, mixing different plasters. You know, he does a lot of these special things to see, is this going to create that vision that where he's at right now, right? After empathy and collaboration, he's trying to work and experiment, essentially, before he creates his final piece of art. Well, again, when we're creating products, that's what we have to do. We don't want to just go from the idea and vision right to the product and spend millions and millions of dollars and find out it's not right. So doing paper products, not falling in love with your prototypes, as we call them, basically experimenting. It was amazing to me that William is sharing these same concepts, and I was shocked, honestly, that that's what he was doing. And so I really started to feel a really connection and bond with William. His result is right in front of you, this rhinoceros. And I said, you know, like, I didn't connect to modern art before. William really, in understanding how he goes about creating his artwork, really has taught me to get a real appreciation for this. And what's amazing right now is as you look at this art piece, might be a couple of hundred people in this room, and all of you are seeing something different. In essence, what you're doing is you're iterating around William's art, kind of a model, and everybody who sees that is doing the same thing. And when we create our products, our iteration is with the customer. We put the product out there, we're observing, and we do another iteration. So it's a really interesting phenomena that I didn't really see before. To me, it was kind of profound that you can have a piece of art sitting there, many people viewing it, and there's almost like a release 1.1 just came out. We have to do the same thing here. We do that exact same modeling and that basically improving it as we go along. Although in William's case, he put the artwork out there and it gets improved each time people see it. So it's an amazing thing for me. And I show you this because I think to be an innovator takes a lot of courage. And I know when Dolly probably created this, I mean, you look at this, what do you think of? The guy's crazy, insane, what's going on with this person? And I know in my career, in putting out really a fundamental new ideas and pushing the status quo, the one thing I hear constantly is, you're crazy. That can't never be done. So I don't know if this goes against essentialism, kind of, if you will. But really what it does is saying you got to challenge the status quo. If you're going to change the game, you have to be bold. You have to have courage. And you saw some of the things on the technical side like cloud and DevOps. I mean, I've introduced that almost 5 or 6 years ago before it was popular to introduce. And I will tell you, the resistance you get is amazing. The focus you have to have as an innovator to drive it into value is tough. It's not easy. So when you embark on this innovative model, you have to have courage. It's not for the faint of heart. And understanding how the empathy and collaboration and experimentation work to deliver the product is really, really essential. And I know I heard a reference to Einstein, so I'm going to give you a different reference. Here's a man who, by all practicality, right, is a genius. Right? We think about him, he's basically at the top of his game, unattainable. When I see this picture, he reminds me of just, he's a regular human being. He has that innovative and creative side in him also. And really, what we're really trying to say here is, or I'm trying to say, is you got to be bold enough to let that creative self out. It's in all of us. Whether you are in ops, whether you're a developer, whether you're a PM or BA, anyone can be an innovator. But it's up to us as leaders and individuals to foster the environment to allow it to happen. And this is this is my last slide, and I'm going to end it on here on this note and really try and share with you a very poignant moment for me. And in the discussion that I had with William, he was looking at me and basically told me that, you know, Frank, you're an artist like me. And I was like, that floored me to hear that. I was like, I'm an engineer. I also have studied law, believe it or not, so I stayed in law school. I never, ever saw myself as an artist. So it was really a special moment for me to really equate and see how what we do and what an artist does is actually very, very similar. And so now when I look at an artwork like this, I have the appreciation to understand that this artist was creating this for me, and for me to view that and get my feelings. What does it take out of me? And when you create products, you need to create products for people. And you need to see how do you create engaging work? So for me, it's the same model. So I just want to say thank you, and I believe Hayes is coming up here, and I'll hand him the clicker.